Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lost Sheep Podcast. I'm Nazario Pangallo.
And I'm Cole Bissett.
And for the first time in 3 episodes, Cole, we do not have a guest on this week.
Yeah, sounds about right. About 3 episodes. It is
Now,
weird.
we had the focus missionary on, Mr. Austin Dow, and then Father Mugaga last week. Very exciting and very profound conversations, in my opinion. Those were very learning experiences for us as well. I mean, we're the ones learning from these other people and just spreading the learning onto you guys as well. We're learners just like you guys. We try to be teachers every once in a while, but mostly just learners passing information, messengers to each other, missionaries, But anyways, Cole, this is our first episode of summer. You have one more final exam left, but I am back.
Not summer yet for me.
It's very close to summer.
Still not summer though.
But you have one exam, and then it's summer. Tomorrow night, it's summer for you.
Yes, tomorrow night is summer for me.
Give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to Cole Bissett. 4 or 5 exams.
4 exams.
Four,
DPQ counts as 2 though.
basically 5 very difficult exams. My boy is battling in the engineering department. I don't know how you do it, sir, but we salute you.
Thank you. How was yours? Did you take yours? I never asked you.
Yes, I did indeed take my online final exam. It was on
Your
lockdown
one?
browser. It was proctored. I couldn't look at any notes, and my screen was shut down. There was no internet usage, so it was a full on exam. We got an 80 plus 10 extra
Okay.
credit points. So
So you got a 90 then? Or is that with your 10?
with the 10 extra credit points, got a 90.
Okay.
We'll take it every day.
Okay. Yeah. Did you study at all or did you just wing it?
I studied for about 30 minutes before it.
Nice. Sounds like high school all over again, man.
Absolutely. But how are you feeling going through exam week? How has it been? Spiritually trying to battle with exams, studying, and still including God in your life.
Really, it's not been bad, honestly. I've found that when I'm studying with exams, or not with exams, for exams with people, I'm actually growing closer to God through it. I had some really fun experiences with some buddies this week. Uh, Ben and Chase, I don't y'all may listen, y'all may not, who knows. They were interesting. Thomas Price was there. We all had a blast just sitting there. Reviewing. Honestly, we probably procrastinated more than we actually got done, but we did all end up passing that final, at least we think. So that's a bonus. But they were able to really just kind of make the time a little less challenging and more enlightening. And so it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I'm sure if they're listening, they'll get a kick out of this because they stayed up. They pulled an all-nighter the other day, and I went to bed at 10, although I didn't fall asleep until 2. But I was like, no way I'm staying up with you guys. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Yeah. No, seems like a very fun experience. Finals week, very interesting. But we hope you all, if you are students or if you are teachers going through finals week, battling through that final part of the season. But it's just the beginning of a new season of faith. Easter's just a few weeks ago, so we're still in the Easter season. Eventually, going to get into ordinary time in the liturgical year. Very exciting stuff. But our faith life never ends. It's a continuous journey all the time. And Cole Bissett, I think you have to introduce this quote for to this episode. If you don't introduce this is just wrong. It's just wrong in every way. And once you introduce it, everyone will understand.
So, as Nazario has previously stated, maybe the third episode actually, was I really support a band called NeedtoBreathe. And he was kind of shocked that it took me so long to actually speak their name on the podcast. And so I thought it was due time that we actually did a quote by them. And so I brought one of them. This is from the song Testify. And it's "There's no denying beauty makes a sound." I'm going to repeat that one more time. There is no denying beauty makes a sound. So I'll let that sit for a second and we'll go right into it. All right. So I sent this to Nazario and he honestly didn't seem too into it. So I'm gonna kind of get him into it this podcast and explain to him what I think about it and how it's kind of been my family's motto and what we try to strive for every day is this quote essentially. So, what does it mean when it says beauty makes a sound? How can beauty make a sound? It doesn't speak. It's more of just a physical appearance. Now, that is not just the case for this quote. This quote has many different aspects. I think there's a couple ways you could take it. Obviously, you can take physical beauty, and when I walk by someone and I see physical beauty, it does sort of make a feeling and a sense of sound. Like you recognize them, they stick out in a crowd. That's what beauty is in that physical sense. Now, what I believe this quote is talking about is internal beauty. And what is internal beauty? Well, let's dive into
I don't
that.
know, Cole. What is it?
Yeah, what do you think it is? I'll ask you that question before I dive into it. Nazario, what do you think internal beauty is?
Eternal beauty is being in touch with who you truly are. You know, beauty comes from God, and He's the one that designed you. So He designed each of us with an internal beauty that is very unique in each one of us. So tapping into that is, you know, the internal beauty for every single one of us. It's how do we be ourselves in the most unique, special way that we were created. While, you know, some people will take, you know, being yourself and doing what you want, as the world would say, to take it into a bad context and misconstrue that. But being who you truly are and who you were meant to be is purely based on God and how He defines that, because He is our creator. He is the one that designed us with our plan. And you keep smirking over there, making me smile randomly. But anyways, but He designs that plan and that inner true self. He knows us more than we ever could. So when we say that we are tapping into our true self and that we are being who we were meant to be, we should be being conformed to the image of Jesus and following God's plan, because He's the one that knows our true self and created us with that design. So knowing our, you know, that internal beauty comes from God, and it mostly comes out most profoundly when we are most in tap with it and the way that God designed it. Sorry, that was a long answer to your question, but
So actually, I think you hit the nail pretty well, and so I applaud you for that. Good job.
thank you,
Um,
sir.
this quote can go into many other Need to Breathe songs. It's just a kind of a culmination of who they are. They're trying to find themselves a lot throughout their music, and kind of because they don't label themselves as a specific genre, because it's kind of hard to label them as a specific genre. They're soft rock sometimes, they're Christian sometimes, or they're like they honestly have some that are even like exploring indie or pop style. But
Country, in my opinion,
they do
sometimes.
have country. They do have country. There is a little bit of country mixed in there. But I think this links to another song specifically called Who Am I? And it breaks like, who am I to be loved by you? Who am I? And it's in reference to God. Like, who are you? Why are you worthy to be loved by God? And I think it comes back to this internal beauty that we're talking about. This internal beauty. God gave you your body, your soul, your life, pure existence, and that is internal beauty in of its own, right? And wasting that and not exploring that is losing that beauty, right? You should explore yourself. You should try to find yourself by seeking out God, because He created it. So what better way to learn it than to go to the creator of it himself? And it's like, whoa, once you realize that and you take a step back and you actually start to dive into it and you're like, okay, I should explore this internal beauty. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring this over to the quote that we're talking about today. There's no denying beauty makes a sound. For me, and I'm sure you have these same interactions. When I walk to the Sabin Center here and hang out with a bunch of the people there, I can sense, like, I feel this internal beauty in others there, because I can see them seeking it out and striving towards God. And it makes a sound almost like you can feel it. And it's kind of like when you know how people, this is a big theory that people can do this. And I believe it's true. I believe you can. And I know you like conspiracy theories, so this is mine. But I believe farmers in particular can smell when the rain is coming. Okay. And I think it's the exact same sort of thing. I think internal beauty speaks itself to others. And that's what I believe internal beauty is. I believe it's this design that God gave you, yourself as a whole, because we own nothing in this world but our soul, right? And God gave that to us, so why not seek Him through it? So I'm gonna throw it back to you. What do you got to say on that? Anything?
I'm not gonna go directly on the quote, but building off the other topics that we said, like about that inner beauty and the identity really of ourselves, and going back to what we talked about, how in the world are you gonna expect to find your identity and who you are and what you're meant to do and your purpose by going out into the world and searching for it out there, right? What has the world done to influence, like to know what your true self is? Have those people? Sure. We learn things from the world, and that's a good thing. Like we're supposed to learn from the world, but they don't know our true self. People out in the world don't know that. The media, whoever's creating all of these, quote unquote, expectations for life or the plans for life that work for certain people and other people, they don't know your true self. How in the world is that person, whoever it is, multiple people out there making these different ideas and plans for life? How are you expecting to find out there? You can't see my hand. Out there, the world. Out there in the world, how are you expecting to find your identity and your purpose from somebody that doesn't know your true self? And firstly, that comes from yourself, learning who your true self is, but also knowing that there's somebody who will know your true self more than you forever, right? God will know your true self more than anyone in the entire world ever could, including yourself. And that is very, very encouraging and very exciting, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, like we're just human beings. Right now, we're 19. He's still 18.
Yeah,
Anyways,
still young.
still older than you, always will be. But we're just teenage college kids. I mean, look at us. We're just messing around on about a little joke like that on a podcast. Anyways, but going back to what I was saying, but it's always encouraging to think about, like, we're just humans. We will never be able to do enough, know enough, more than majority of people in the world. We're not going to be geniuses or anything like that. But there's a God out there who not only knows ourselves, knows more about the entire world. He knows everything, right? He has all these different ideas and ways and love and everything, and he pours everything into each one of us in a very unique way. He didn't just say, this is Cole Bissett, he's going to be exactly the same as Nazario Pangallo. He didn't say this person is going to be the same. No, 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 no. Each of us, completely different. God knows each of our differences, and he made each of them in a unique way because he wanted us to be able to be different. He wanted unique children, not he didn't just want robots. I think we've talked about that before. And he didn't just want, clones of each other, right? He wanted people, unique people who had different identities, a different inner beauty, right? And this is, how you glorify him. What just happened? We just lost Cole. Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, we glorify the Lord by finding our inner beauty because he created us with such inner beauty. And when we bring that out, we glorify him in so many ways. But how do we bring that out? How do we bring that out? That is the challenge for each one of us. And that's how we tap into the Lord even more, because he's the only one that knows that true identity. He's the only one who knows how to get us to that true identity and to bring it out. And that's by being more like him. More like him. What happened right there, son?
So I don't know if we're even gonna have the audio of you talking right there because everything just crashed for a minute. So I hate that for you because that was a really good talk and you were getting somewhere with it. And so now it might just be erased. So we'll see how the audio turns out in the end.
The
But
beauties of technology, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, see, it's why inner beauty is more important than technological beauty because it
Exactly.
does
Don't try to
technological
find
beauty.
your inner beauty from
Yeah.
devices and this garbage that's technology.
Yeah,
Find it from
exactly.
yourself.
Exactly. But
Anyways, who was calling you?
it was my dad actually.
Give us the inner. What is some inner beauty about your father that you see, that just not on the outside? We know Greg is just one of the most attractive men in the universe, but what are some what are some of his inner beauties that you love from your dad?
My dad's always really been inspirational to me in the courageous way. He's always been the sort of guy just to like be real with you and kind of just he would always try to encourage me to do better. And it wouldn't even always be through words, it would just be his actions. He's a really good representation of what I want, like, a father to be in my life. He's really good at leading by example every day. He'll wake up bright and early Saturday morning when I'm trying to sleep in, and he'll be working. And by the time I wake up, he's already working for 2, 3 hours. And it's honorable and respectable, and it's something that inspires me. Now I may complain and groggle when I get up to work with him eventually, but it's still inspirational to see it because I struggle with that, and it's nice to see that in somebody else and have him guide me through that. And I think that's part of his inner beauty. And another big aspect is his faith. He's really, really inspiring in the way he treats his faith. He's very wise in that aspect. I've learned a lot from him. I always complain because whenever sit down to have a spiritual talk with him, sometimes it takes like an hour, and it can be the simplest question, like, oh, what's a good one? I don't know, but it can be the simplest question I'll ask about the faith, and he'll dive into this whole theological rant for an hour. So I have to pick and choose when I'm going to sit and talk with him. But he's very wise, and I normally get a good bit out of our talks when we dive into it. What about you? What about your father?
Check the chat real quick. But I will answer your question. I would say it's
Chat.
very similar. Yeah, there's a private chat for this thing. I was trying to lead you into another conversation by telling you it, but it's all right. You'll get into it eventually. But
Gotcha. Yeah.
um, it's very similar in different ways. My dad, he's not the biggest expresser of love, especially through words. But he expresses it through his work. And your dad, you did kind of say that, and just like the way he works hard and works for the family, that's probably my favorite thing. But then, as I've grown up and how he's grown as well, he's grown so much in my lifetime, and I don't know if it's from me or my brothers or just that whole family aspect is a huge place for growth. And he's learned how to show his love more and to show his emotion, which is to me a very important thing that I wish that more men would do, and one it's very hard for men to do, and for a variety of reasons. But working hard for the family is definitely the number one thing. And as you talked about, waking up on Saturday mornings or late at night, when it's dark outside. My dad has built two houses for my family actually. About when I was like 1 or 2 years old, he built our first house, and then the house that I live in now that you see in the background right here. He built that along with me, my brothers, and my mom. We kind of were the main people. He is a construction guy. He's a police officer right now, but he is at heart a construction guy. And that's why he's constantly, out doing different things. So just his work and the way he expresses his love through his work for others. And it's very inspiring. And that my parents have both done a good job of teaching that working is a good thing. Like working is not a bad thing at all. And that's one thing I've come back and been like this summer. And I know it's only been a few days, but like the chores have not been like taxing at all. They've been like satisfying because it's work, and work is good for us, and work is so good for us. And I know you're engineering, it's really tough. Like it's not the most fun thing in the world. But I can imagine that when you come out of a statics test or a differential equations test with a great score, that has to be one of the most satisfying things. Because why? Because you worked for it. And so just learning how to work for things in different ways, and just learning to be persevering and to do it for others, is probably the number one inner beauty that I've learned from my dad.
I also think it's important when you work that sometimes you're going to fail. Like last semester, I'd say I worked really hard on a lot of my Calculus 3 tests, and I bombed a lot of my Calculus 3 tests. But I just kept coming back, and it just taught me lessons over and over and over again. I need to pay more attention during class. I need to do this better. I need to do this better. And eventually, towards the end of the semester, I started kicking it into gear and was doing well on all my tests. Even the final, I did really well on. And it was like, okay, I could do this. And I think it's important to have those moments in your life when you work so hard for something and you just fail. You just fail. Now, why is that important? It's important because it teaches you a lesson that you're not going to learn from anything else. You're never going to learn that lesson unless you fail in life, and that's why God made you human. He gave you this ability to have free will. He gave you this ability to allow you to fall to grow closer to him. It's the same thing when we fall into sins and God is like pulling us out of there. He's teaching us, we're being taught a lesson, and he's pulling us out of it, and he's saying, "Look, you're stronger than this. You beat it. Now you get a chance to move on and help spread this lesson to other people." And I think it's really important just to have that in your life. So,
Yep. Not
but
only
yeah.
did he give us free will, but he gave us baseball, and this was a perfect opportunity to go into it. There will never be a sport where your main goal is to go up there and hit a baseball or just go up. You go into one aspect. It's just you at the plate, one on one with one player on the other team, right? And your job is to, basically overcome the pitcher, right? But you know what happens? If you're a great baseball player in professional baseball, you get out 7 times out of the 10 times that you go to the plate. 70% of the time that you play baseball, if you're a Hall of Fame player, if you're the best player in the world, basically, you get out 70% of the time. Now, that's not even talking about, the average players or the less than average players in the major leagues that get out more than 80% of the time. Could you imagine failing professionally at your job 70 to 80% of the time? I know we're talking about faith here, but like one of the greatest mental battles my life has been playing the game of baseball because of the failure that happens. And this isn't just like, oh, you go up there and you hit a ball good or bad and you're like, oh, there are times when you are absolutely humiliated where the pitcher will just throw a beautiful pitch and you look like the biggest fool on the planet. And you have to walk back to the dugout, be okay, and then go back out and do it 2 or 3 times more in that same game. It's the greatest, to me, the greatest sport for teaching that lesson of failure because they call it a game of failure because it is. And life is a game of failure as well. There's just so many times in life where we're going to fail. If you ask your parents, like if I ask your dad or my mom or your mom, they could tell us the plenty of failures that they've had in their lives. But you know what? They made it. Just like a majority of human beings, if not all human beings, made it through their failures in a different type of way. Your failures aren't gonna kill you. What is it? What's the song say? If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. There we go. There's the quote.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't
it's true, and it's one of the hardest things in life is to fail, but it's probably one of the best things in life. And I bring up baseball because just the game of failure, and I am a baseball player, so I've gone through it, and man, that is a mentally taxing thing for sure. But is there anything like this in soccer that is just that dealing that with that failure, or any sport that you've played where you've had to overcome that failure, or different things in your life other than sports that have been your test for dealing with failure?
I'd say there's a lot. There's a universal sense of failure when it comes to sports. For soccer, you're pressured 100 times a game to make a right pass. If you mess up the pass, the other team gets it. It's pretty simple. It doesn't matter if it's just a slight mess up. Most of the time, the other team gets it. And every single time, you got to be better. You got to get back up and you say, okay, the next pass is going to be good. The next pass is going to be better. The next pass is going to get to the next person. And being able to do that is hard. Just like in football, you drop a catch. Oh, I got to catch the next one. I'm going to catch the next one. You get pressure in the end zone last second of the game. They throw a dime to you. You got to catch it. Can't drop it. You drop it, hurts. Come back. You got to pick it. You got to do it again, and you got to catch it next time. Volleyball. Uh, for guys, I mean, guys and girls, it's probably the same thing as far as just mentally taxing goes. But you mess up a bump, you mess up a set, it messes up the entire team, it messes up that entire play. I mean, it goes for everything. Now, I'd say baseball is probably the most mentally taxing because it's more consistent, but it's
And you
definitely
only
a
get you
universal
only get
sense.
like 2, 3 at bats in a baseball game, maybe four.
Yeah.
Like as you talked about, there's like hundreds of passes in a soccer game, and so you like the part of it. The difference I would say is you take so much longer in between your opportunities. For soccer, that's a great way to work on failure. You're quick. You got to get over it like that. And for baseball, that's one thing we say is you got to have a quick memory. But you go out there for like the next 3 innings until you hit again. You're just sitting there like, did I just do that? Like that was like the worst at bat of my life. But like for soccer, that's so great. You're like, boom, right back. I got to make another pass or I got to sprint back on defense. So love the differences in sports to really create those things. And that's why I just love sports in so many ways. Like I just love watching them in general. But they teach so many great lessons for life. I don't know how we got from this quote to sports, but
Yeah,
that's kind
that's
of
a good
I guess that's
question.
just what happens when you have me on your podcast. So
I mean, it's a good representation when you're under pressure, right? There's different ways you can handle it. And baseball, they let it build. Like you said, they let it build. It's in your brain. And it's kind of like you're going in a big case and you're a lawyer and you're letting the pressure build before you get there. And then it's up to you to get this person out, make sure he doesn't get convicted. Or in soccer, where the pressure's there. You messed up, and it's telling you get over that, and you got to get over it quick because in the next second or two, you're probably touching the ball again. And it's like there's many different examples of how to deal with pressure in your life. And it's funny because you and I both play completely different sports, so we both deal with pressure probably differently. And I think sports has probably molded us that way, which is funny because I don't know, I just never really thought of it that way. Like, how do you deal with pressure? Do you kind of let it build while you're like kind of in baseball, and then eventually when it comes time to take on the challenge, you break through it? For me, I definitely like when pressure builds for something, I try to break through it as quickly as possible, and I think that's because of this different sports that I've played. Honestly,
Personally, I don't like letting pressure build or like stress build. Like I would, the reference I'm thinking of in my mind. I'm not sure if this is exactly how the question would answer for you, but what I think of in my mind is like having work that needs to be done, like in school, like assignments. I like to like if they're due like Sunday night of a week. Like I'm one to do it like the middle, like the beginning of the week, like Monday afternoon, and like get it done. So I don't think baseball has made me like push out that pressure and like wait for it. I like to just like yeah, just like you said, just like get it done, get that pressure like over with, and yeah. But for me though, like for baseball, one of the biggest like pressure building moments probably in my life was last year. We're playing in the regional tournament, and the score was 2-1, right? And I think it was we had first and second, and this is the last inning. There's two outs. I'm on deck, right? And so we're down one run. There's first and second. It's a 3-2 count. If our batter gets walked, I'm going to come up bases loaded, down a run, two outs. Like literally could be the last baseball game of my life. I'm literally getting like nervous pressure like right now because I was terrified. Because I've like played baseball since I was 3 years old. I've loved it forever. And I'm like, if I am the last out of my life, I'm gonna be just heartbroken like forever. Luckily, my boy Landon Johnson, shout out, double took the lead. It was electric. I'll send you that if I ever show you that. Gosh, that was unbelievable. But I was terrified. So yes, pressure has built, but I hate when pressure builds. When pressure builds for me, it creates so much stress and anxiety. I like freak out. My stomach, like I don't know if anxiety and stress and pressure like affects everyone's stomach, but for me, it's terrible. Like I feel like I'm gonna throw up so bad. But yeah, I don't like waiting on pressure because that happens. So many other things happen. I just like to get done, man.
yeah, those moments are the worst. I remember like having to take my permit test, and I was just a little kid, so I'm walking up trying to take my permit test, and I'm like terrified. I don't want to be one of the known as one of the kids that didn't pass the permit test, and I was like I could do it. And so I studied and I studied and I got there. Once I got there, I did fine, but the pressure was definitely there, and it's always just this knot in your stomach that you can't get out. Now, I am going to twist this back to our quote because we were here, then we went this way a little bit, and then we pulled all over here. So now we're over here. So now I got to bring us right back to the center. And how am I going to do that? Well, here's how I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to tell you guys, right? What are we doing right now? We're building pressure. And what's the pressure for? The pressure is to get to heaven. How are we going to get to heaven? Overcoming that pressure. And how are we going to overcome that pressure? By figuring out our inner beauty by trying to follow God. Boom. Simple as that. So our
Can you
entirety
drop
of
the
our
mic? Can
life.
you drop the mic right there or no?
There you go. There you go.
He
Mic
didn't want to
drop.
kill your ears. That's why he
No, I
he
did
caught
not
it.
want to
It
kill
would have
my ears.
it would
Oh
have
yeah.
hurt a lot of ears if he dropped that. But
Yeah, we're in a battle for our souls every day. We are in this constant we're in our own sport. Our sport is to get to heaven. That's the end goal. That's how you win the game. Right? The other team is trying to score a goal for Satan. All right? You're trying to score a goal for God and the rest of the angels. This is your chance, right? They're your teammates. You got your people following you along. You got the crowd cheering you on. You got the other friends in your life in the crowd cheering you on, telling you to shoot, right? And you better shoot and score, right? The pressure's on you. The pressure's on all of us, right? We're given a chance every single day to shoot and score a goal for God. How are we going to do it? How are you going to approach your life to score that goal for God? And so I challenge you guys, and myself included, and you, Nazario, all every single day to treat your life like a spiritual battle. Remember, our souls are designed to be in union with God. We're designed to be in union with God, and Satan's trying to break that union by hurting us so he can hurt God. That's all he's doing. All right? So remember that, and remember you're fighting for the right side. So just know that when you're being put through trials and tribulations, that it's all gonna work out in the end. Right? Just trust it. And I know that's way, way, way better said than done. But
Absolutely. You know, it doesn't matter what sports analogy you want to use, whether it's soccer, whether it's baseball, basketball. The devil is going to score his points. He's going to hit a couple 3-pointers. He's going to block a couple shots. He's going to score a goal, maybe block one, whatever you strike you out, whatever you want to call it. Like the score is going to go his way sometimes, but at the end of the day, there's one thing you got to remember. You got this thing behind you. It's called the Jesus shot. We'll call it the Jesus shot.
the Jesus
But
shot.
the
I
Jesus
like
shot.
that.
The fifth, it doesn't matter how much the devil goes up in the game. It doesn't matter how much he goes up because Jesus' shot's coming, and it triumphs over all the points that the devil scored. It does not matter because the Jesus shot is coming, and then you can take that two ways, but I'm gonna take it as the Jesus shot is, his crucifixion, his resurrection. That shot triumphs everything. Obviously, it's not a shot; it's an analogy. Please don't take that out of context. But the Jesus shot, his crucifixion and resurrection triumphs all the things that the devil could do and is going to try to do, because he's going to try every single thing he can do. He's going to try a Euro step. He's going to try a fadeaway three. He's going to try a power shot from outside the 18. These are all sports analogies, and if you don't understand them, I'm really sorry, but
You're missing out.
Yeah. He's going to try the curveball, the changeup, everything possible, the fork ball, random pitches out here. Anything he can try, he's going to try to score as many points for his side as he can. But the Jesus shot triumphs all of it. It does not matter. And that Jesus shot, it's not just for me. It's not just for Cole Bissett. It's not just for you that's listening. It's for everyone. That shot is so impactful. The shot heard around the world, the shot known, the greatest event in history, the greatest event in the history of the universe and will ever be historic, scores more points than anything else could ever do. LeBron James is over 40,000 points in the NBA. It's no comparison to the amount of value in Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. And it wins the match. It wins the game. Whatever title you want to give it, it wins. Always and forever. And it wins our hearts and our souls for the winning team every single time. And when that strikeout comes and when you got to walk back to the dugout and you got to see God sitting on the bucket. If you played baseball, you understand what I'm talking about. But when you walk back to that dugout and you see God, and you're like, dang, I just messed up. I just struck out. He got me right there. You know what he's going to say? Hey, get the next one. That's what we've got to remember. If you didn't play baseball or softball, find a different analogy. I'm sure you can, but that one really works for me. I'm not going to lie. That one kind of hit for me. But, there's always the next one. And at the end of the day, Jesus hit a 700-foot home run. Not even 700 foot. 1,000,000-foot home run. He hit the greatest soccer shot of all time. He hit the greatest buzzer beater ever. Forever. Over. Game over.
He was the first, fourth, and 1,000. Anyways, have you seen real quick? Have you seen the meme on Instagram with this guy dressed up as Jesus and he's shooting the soccer ball and it goes in the net and it says "Holy shot" on the top?
No.
It's great. I'll send it to you later, but that was good. So can we say that you successfully enjoyed this quote after you kind of just didn't take it into effect? I feel like this is a quote you really enjoyed. I think you took it to heart a little more than I thought you were going to.
I'm going to reference the quote and it says there's no denying beauty makes a sound, right? But right after it says, and you can't escape it. And I can't escape this quote.
Exactly.
Can't escape the quote, but we also can't escape what it says. That there's no denying beauty makes a sound. And that plays into if the inner beauty comes from God, as we've talked about plenty of times. There are people in our lives, moments in our lives that we can say are true moments from God, and that they make a sound that we can't escape. Whether that's the Catholic Center and being around those people, and you just constantly have that nagging in your head, like I want to be around those people because of what they're doing. Whether it's give me another reference. I'm not sure. I can't think of a reference at the moment. But
I think
you
this.
guys,
Oh, you go ahead.
no, you guys, you got it.
I was about to say, I think this also could be referenced towards God as a whole. I mean, rather than internal beauty and physical beauty, it could just be the beauty of God. I
True.
think we could totally missed out on an obvious answer right there, but yeah, guys, God's beauty is really good too. That's what we're talking about this entire episode. So
Well, your inner beauty,
remember that.
it is God. You know, it comes from
Yeah,
God,
that's
made in
true.
the image.
True.
So when we're talking about inner beauty, we're talking about that as well. And you just can't escape it. It's God is gonna keep coming after you over and over and over again. He's never gonna just leave you, right? Just like your coaches. Why do I keep making sports references? I gotta stop
Hey, go
this.
off though. You're going off.
But your coaches are always going to come back and try to keep teaching you the game, right? Your parents are always going to want to keep you going until you decide to quit. However, you can decide to quit on God, but He will never quit on you. And it doesn't matter how many times you say, "Oh, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done." He keeps coming back over and over and over and over again. You can't escape it, and you might as well just stop trying to escape it and just give in and just fall in love with Him, like you have, Cole, like I have, like majority of our listeners. You can't escape it, and it makes the greatest sound that has ever been heard. Greater, gosh, thought of another sports reference. Greater than any baseball ever hit. Greater than any swish ever. Greatest. What's a great soccer sound?
Off the bar, into the
The
net.
greatest off the bar Messi bender from the outside the 18 ever. God's beauty makes the greatest sound. I'm
Oh
done.
yeah. I think you really enjoyed it. Sounds like you still got a little bit of that Lenten fire in you. So
Always.
it's oh yeah, I remember the first episode back from that. You were yelling with fire. But I think this is a really good way to end it, honestly. This has been a really good quote. I've enjoyed talking about it. I'm actually wearing hold up, I haven't broadcast it yet. I'm wearing this side.
Other side.
I'm
There
wearing
you
Need
go.
to Breathe merch right now. So y'all should go buy some. We'll
Ugh.
probably tag them and hopefully they'll
They're gonna share it.
say something or
Basically,
share it. Yeah.
eventually, their next when they go on tour next time, we'll be going on tour with them. There'll be like a halftime for the show. We'll come out and speak, and then they'll keep playing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're
What
definitely
What
gonna be
would
in a
you
Need to
do?
Breathe concert.
What
I'd
would you
cry.
do if they
I'd
brought you
cry.
on tour to do that? I don't think
I'd
you'd be able to
cry.
handle it.
No, I wouldn't. I would freak out. I probably wouldn't even go out on stage. But I would probably wouldn't even enter the stadium to go see him.
Well,
But
before we end, I have to ask you this because this is about Need to Breathe and their quote to start, right? And just for we haven't really done Shepherd of the Week in the most perfect sense in the past, little bit. So obviously, our Shepherd of the Week would be Need to Breathe, and this all is because of you. I've listened to Need to Breathe, but they have not had the impact well, I mean, their songs had great impact on me, but they mean a lot more to you and to your family than they do to me. And that's okay. We all have our different impacts. And I would just like you to finish this off just talking about how Need to Breathe has impacted you and your family in all the different ways. Tell us, Cole, how has Need to Breathe been the shepherd of your life?
so you're giving me an excuse to talk about them?
Well, I mean, I feel like I have to, right?
Okay, fine, fine. Uh,
And then
I grew.
end the episode when you finish.
Okay,
I'm
I'll
done.
close it
It's
out.
all
I'll
you.
close it out. Okay, I'll close it. So I started when I grew up. My parents played Need to Breathe throughout the entirety of my childhood, and it's always been a part of my life. And as I got older, I started to get into their music a little more, and then I found I literally like almost every single song they've ever written. And so it's been this spiritual guidance for me just to listen to the beauty of some of their lyrics and how they've grown through the time. It feels like almost like I'm part of their family, and I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like I'm growing at the same time they're growing, and it's really neat to hear their story and to watch them grow, and their sound progressively starts to change over the years. And it's neat to see that change because you're watching someone else live a different experience of their life, and you're getting to kind of sit down and be part of it with them. And I think being a Need to Breathe fan, being a part of their life has really been huge for me. It's really changed the way I view music as a whole because they come at it with an angle that they allow no one else to touch. This is their music, and they make sure that it's their own. They keep it original, and they make sure nobody else sounds like it. and it's really awesome to see that. They spread a very good message in every single song, and I just love listening to them. And I'm gonna close it out by saying, go listen to Need to Breathe. Do yourself a favor. I promise you're not gonna regret it. There's a lot of really good songs out there. If you like the acoustics,
Start with Testify. Start with
yeah,
this song.
start with Testify. It's a good song. If you like more rock, they've got a couple: Money and Fame, Feet Don't Fail Me Now. If you want a more acoustic style, go to Rivers in the Wasteland. That's a really good album. You'll love it. It's all acoustic pretty much. There's many different sort of vibes, whatever you want. Just go give them a listen. I promise you won't regret it. And so before I end, I'd like to remind people we've been giving these out, and a ton of them have. I've seen a lot of people wearing them, so it's awesome. But we still have the Lost Sheep podcast bracelets. So if you would like some of them, come in contact with us. Nazario, I forgot to give you some when you got back. So
Yep.
the guys in Kentucky, I'm sorry, I will have to give them to Nazario when he goes to Chattanooga, but you will get them eventually, I promise. But yeah, if you know either of us, just reach out. We'll try to find a way to get them to you. Anyways, remember, there's no denying beauty makes a sound, and you sure can escape it no matter what you do. God bless.